You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amber TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best. We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this very important broadcast. This is Paddy King today, Monday, 14th. I hope I'm not mistaken. And I'm having with me a great panel. We're going to be talking about the new ground game activated code. And we have, we will definitely be having Sylvester Zamar. We'll be having Nijo. And that's where our focus is. But then why the legal minds? The legal minds is because we're talking about a war that is legality. In international law, it is recognized there are Geneva Conventions that are guiding every act of war, be it self-defense in our self-defense initiative. And sometimes when we come to process this information and to examine the policy of the interim government vis-a-vis the war ongoing in our home front, it's important that our people stay educated, the forces of the ground stay educated. Like I said earlier on, we will be having, we will focus mostly on resource mobilization and self-defense on the ground. The ground game, like we told you on Saturday, has got to change. In fact, there is already change in motion. What is this change? How do we get the people involved? How do we get the restoration forces educated for the change that is going to be taking place? That will be our discussion. I want to apologize that we're starting a few minutes beyond schedule. I deeply apologize for that. But right after this break, we will start this discussion right away.
From Africa, with untold stories, Africa's best. We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Get trained as an IT professional from the comfort of your home. Dynamic Tech Academy gives you a unique opportunity through our 6-month program, during which you learn skills to transition to being a full-time IT professional. Over 80% of our students have no prior IT background, yet the vast majority of them land jobs a month after they start applying. Our ultimate goal is to reach 100% student placement, so we work with every student until he or she gets a job. Upon successful completion of the course, we will give you a resume, interview preps, one-on-one coaching from experienced instructors, and job placement assistance. Within this course, you get more than 300 hours of theories combined with real-world applications and practical skills you can apply on day one on your job. At the end of the program, our students can be certified as Red Hat Systems Administrator, AWS Cloud Engineer, AWS Security Specialist. Visit our website at www.dynamictechacademy.com to register.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best. We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best. We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories.
Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to this very important broadcast. And I would say once again, welcome. Good evening, Barrister Team. Good evening, Barrister So.
Thank you, Paddy. Thank you. Thank you for inviting us once more.
It's my
Thank
pleasure.
you, sir. Once more, we're
Yes,
service.
good. Yeah, on Saturday we started a discussion. We'll be having Nijo and Sylvester Zama of Defense Special Operations joining us in a few minutes. But we started a discussion on Saturday. We could not exhaust it because it is extensive and also because of the importance of it. While we're waiting for these two gentlemen to join us and to get into the intricacies of it, since it is directly involving them, I want us to scan through from a legal perspective. You have the Geneva Conventions guiding every war. And if you observe the way we have been prosecuting this war from 2018 into now, the interim government has cautioned our technical apparatus on the ground, restricted some of our rage. You wouldn't see us getting to some extent because we are trying to abide the law. But you have a recognized trained army that has gone beyond bars all over the time. We've seen La République du Cameroun and their proxies behead people on camera, roast children in hot palm oil. And some Ambazonians are thinking out of anger, one would have to respond proportionately. That notwithstanding, I also understand that in self-defense, there is an offensive aspect. Calculating and thinking that the time has come when we would have to dismantle the oppressor, the enemy, from even within their ranks. Whatever way you want to go about this, you are the technicians, you are the legal minds, you're the ones who know exactly the appropriate language of what to say. Talk to us. We had Barrister and Saw sometime last week, actually saying if the war doesn't listen to us or come to our aid timely enough, then we may have to just escalate the rage. Barrister Team, let me start with you, please. Good evening. Once again.
Paddy, thank you for the foundation laid. But we'll discuss all what you have said, the Geneva Convention and so on and so forth. But I would personally want to take off from a different angle. Yes, we have people among ourselves who don't seem to understand exactly what is going on and where we are going to. And I would like us to address that one issue first. When I woke up this morning, I saw this audio message or video being circulated purportedly by Professor Anyangwe. Professor Anyangwe is a man, he knows me so well, we respect him so much. And then he said a number of things which I think That is in-house cleaning. We have to address those issues so that we get educated, so that we correct where we are faulting ourselves. That's where we start before we even go to the Geneva Convention. So I would personally, if you wish, if you will permit me, want us to address those issues, because it is not like somebody keeping quiet has left this thing out there. There are people who will follow those things and think that he is perfectly right. Now, I think somewhere he misspoke. So it's good for us to correct those records in a serene way. Well, I'm not angry. I'm not one of those people who takes to anger. He knows that. So we have to, because that thing is circulating out there are people who will fall for it. And so it's good for us to put the records straight so that we know where we're heading to. The people who respect very much will take their words for gospel. Sometimes it's not true. So I would, if you like, if you will permit me, start from there before we even go to the Geneva Convention. Thank you, sir. If you permit.
Yes, you have the floor. Just write it on from there, and let's get going.
Yeah. Okay. From Professor Anyangwe's, I say this with seriousness. If he's not here, let somebody forward this recording to him. His
Yeah, I believe
audio,
he's gonna be
yeah,
watching you.
he mentioned a number of things. He mentioned people calling others His Excellency, Mr. President, so many times. And I want to address that issue starting from here. Our problem is not that they are calling someone Excellency President. No, that's not where the issue is. Professor Anyangwe knows he is, as I understand, one of the authors of the interim constitution that they adopted, they initiated somewhere in Nigeria. I think he was there. He is part of it. He's the one who instituted the presidency. That interim constitution that instituted the presidency did not say how they will call the president, whether His Excellency or President or my Lord or my God. He didn't state it there. So whoever comes out to call him, to call the president Excellency, my Lord, or whoever, that is not the issue. The war is not dragging because someone was called Excellency or President. No. Even if they did that, they are not violating the Constitution. And let me add again, this thing was started all by Professor Anyangwe. He instituted the presidency, at least he endorsed it. He has not been very helpful to us. I put this out there publicly. He instituted the interim constitution when we were being torn apart just a year ago about an election. I expected Professor Anyangwe as an elder, as an expert, to come and say, look, we put out that interim constitution. We did not contemplate elections. If we want elections, let us go now, amend that document and put it there. He did not do it. He did not help us so much. With his silence, that was not good enough. Point two, get back to His Excellency. Professor Anyangwe, if I got it right, he's from Jikwa. Anyangwe is a prominent name there. We have the chief or the founder of Jikwa. They all expect respect on the front of Jikwa, from all the people from Jikwa. No, there are so many different ways of respecting a phone. Some people come and clap to him. Some come and bow. Some come and dance. That is how they respect the chief there. The man who bow does not say the man who come and clap does not respect the phone. They all respect the phone, but they honor him in different forms. So those who call the president, Honorable President, His Excellency, that's not the issue. That's a form that they choose to respect the president. And so that should not be an issue to worry Professor Anyangwe or any other person who is following that debate. Then he says this, that they should depoliticize the struggle. Professor Anyangwe knows that in all revolutionary struggles, there's always a political arm of it. There's the military arm. Those people fighting on ground zero cannot be fighting without the political leadership. In this struggle, we need the armed leadership and the political leadership. That's just the truth. It happens like that in all revolutions. So people should not take that as serious. No, he lives in South Africa, I guess. He knows the truth of Zimbabwe more than me. There was a political leadership there. While the people were fighting, training in Zambia and every place to go and fight, there was a political leadership that sat on the front desk when it came to discussion. That's how it happens in all revolutions. So there's nothing new here. Again, Professor Anyangwe has not been helpful to us. He decries the killing of our fighters. That's a fact. Everybody decries it. But simply decrying it is not enough. We can right now in our struggle know those who have been killing our fighters. It's not it's not uh, it's not something that you're accusing somebody. It's not suspicion. No. People have killed fighters. They have put out videos confessing that we kill A or B. He knows that ADF kills fighters. We don't accuse them. They have put out videos saying that we'll kill this general, we'll kill this general. So we expect the general, Professor Anyangwe to come out and say, look, Mr. Choyaba, this is not acceptable. Don't kill people. Don't kill your own fighters. They would have learned some credibility there. Just say, well, they kill who have been killing fighters. No. We expect more from him as an elder to be upfront and say, look, this thing is not working. Mr. Choyaba, stop it. If we have lost 10, 20 fighters, most of them have been killed by the ADF on their own admission. So this is not what we do fence sitting. We don't fence sit in these sort of things. Again, he said that the diaspora, fund this, not just own the, don't send somebody a gun, an AK-47, and try to own him. No, they will own those things, sir. Let me go back again. When this war started, we didn't have an army that the military was fighting. So what did they do? They turned their anger on every citizen, on the villages. They burned the villages. They burned their houses. That was their own target. We didn't have an army. And what did we do? If Professor Anyangwe from Jikwa, if they were burning his village in Jikwa, or he sent a cutlass or a spear to one of those villagers, which spear that guy used to kill one single military man, that man who took that spear will call Professor Anyangwe his own hero. He will call him his redeemer because he sent him the spear that he used in killing the enemy. If he cut off the head of that enemy and brought him down before Professor Anyangwe, say, this is my heroism. I've killed that guy with my cutlass that he sent to me. That's just how it is. They honor you for that. And so those are things that should be, the fine lines that should be drawn. People should be told the truth. Yes, Professor Anyangwe is a 40-year-old veteran in this struggle. But for the 40 years, we were not struggling to fight. We were struggling to think that we could get through without fighting. The Bamanda Declaration, proclamation that he knows very well, they wrote it. It gave limited time. We were 1994. We were now 20, 30 years after. That reasonable time had expired. We didn't even declare war upon the expiration of reasonable time. Yeah, when they declared war to us. Again, Professor Anyangwe, the government is set up in Nigeria after the Conquer 1, 2, whatever thing they call it there. It was not a war government. It was not a war government. You were not contemplating war. When Sisiku came here December 2017, he was not contemplating war. He was contemplating getting money to go and do some diplomacy. He didn't raise funds for war. But suddenly, war was declared on us. And again, let us take note of this. What did our people do to manifest what they were doing? They came to Nigeria, caught whoever was even just talking about Southern Cameroon, put them in the military train. They didn't just go there and kill them like they went and kill Mumai and the rest abroad. They went there and carried them in military planes, brought them to Yaoundé against all laws, tried them in the military tribunal, and sent them to military prisons. That is actually war military. Now that seized, that captured, that hijacked, that had adopted the civilian rulers we put there, Sisiku and his people. And now we needed a military leadership that was never prepared for. It evolved. Again, in all revolutions, leadership it doesn't evolve. It emerges. Leadership emerges in revolutions and take over the revolutions. What are the signals of leadership in a revolution? One, whoever emerges as a leader must have two things, two qualities. He must have a vision of what he is trying to do to prosecute the revolution and have an agenda Those are leaders. Those are the qualities of leadership in revolutions. Have a vision. What are you trying to do? Where are you trying to take us to? And how will you do it? So after they took away our civilian revolution leaders, the leadership simply emerged. It emerged. If we all agree that the prosecution is for independence, which you and me, most of us stand for, the leadership that emerged after the capture of Ayoktabe had that vision, the vision to attain independence. Full stop. How did they do it? How will
you
they
tell
do
me
it?
off?
We will fight them.
No,
We will fight
you're
them on the
good.
ground. We will
But you
fight
tell
them
me
on the
off.
ground physically. Are you off?
No, you're not off,
So
Barrister. I think maybe your
now,
internet
the
just
leadership that emerged after they took away
No, it's not
Sisiku
my internet.
was
okay.
a leadership that had a vision to independence. One. How are they
Can I
going to do it?
can
They're
I
going to
also say
finance it.
something?
Yeah, you're
Now,
going
let me
to
just finish.
chip in a few seconds.
Let
Let
me take all my time.
Barrister
There was a
Tunga.
leadership that said we had the vision to independence, and they had the way to prosecute it too. What was the vision? Independence. What is the method to prosecute? We will fight them back. We didn't have an army. They didn't fight them by LGA, village to village, and so on and so forth. Was that a vision? Yes. Again, Professor Anyangwe and his following. In revolutionary struggles, leadership is not elected. Leadership is emerges. There's no election. Professor Anyangwe should have told us the honest truth that in no revolutionary world you will have leadership elected. It's not because you don't like A, B, or C. No. A, B, or C may be the people who have slept with their wife or with their husband or whatever. They have assumed that leadership. Let us tell this truth so that people watching this thing should understand. Just saying that the ground zero should go and fight. That is wrong. They will fight. But again, as I said last week, who in ground zero would have come to sit in Canada? Who in ground zero would have gone to Yaoundé to the so-called Grand National Dialogue? No. When
And
I
that
watched
is
that video,
Barrister Team. And that's exactly where you cannot lay your hands on the spirit that is guiding the thoughts, the words, and the actions of most of the individuals that were involved in Zara, like Cas Nanyangwe. Some want
so
to call him
let
the
me land.
brain behind whatever
Let
we're
me
having
land on
now.
this point. I was trying to land. Now, Prof. Anyangwe, this is the point here. Again, I said leadership is not what you want. It's not about the person you don't like or you like. No, it's about the principles that are at stake. Professor Anyangwe has not helped us. He has been leader in this thing for so long. We have been looking for people to get us negotiate this thing out. What the opportunity, the first opportunity ever in the struggle to have this Swiss-led initiative. Yeah, it was not perfect. I expected Prof. Anyangwe to go and say, yeah, this is an opportunity. Let us get there and correct it to suit our purpose. He joined the people in Canada to condemn it. He struggled to kill it. And now it is dead, at least popularly. What does Professor Anyangwe have in replacement? As an elder. That was the only single opportunity we ever had for the past 50, 60, 65 years, where the Americans, the Canadians, the Germans say, okay, let us go and sit down and talk this problem. We killed it without an alternative. I
With our
expected
own
Professor
heart.
Anyangwe to come.
That's quite
I expected
pathetic.
Professor Anyangwe to come out that time and say, look, let us all fall behind this initiative. The initiative did not land from heaven. Somebody caused it to happen. Why can't we just say somebody did a good thing? Thank you.
Yeah. Barrister Fru, Professor Anyangwe, with no fear of contradiction, is a clear case of intellectual dishonesty. Cue in, please.
Yes, Paddy. If you look through your phone, you would have seen my audio, my response. You didn't look at it. I just checked. You have not even read it. You have not listened.
Yes, I
to
didn't.
it.
I didn't.
But this is
Yes,
listen
thank
to
you.
this. Listen to this. Listen to this.
Yeah.
Professor Anyangwe is an intellectual. Nobody would take that from him, but he's no leader. He's no leader. Because let me explain.
Yeah.
When I was a junior lawyer in Douala when we organized AAC 1 in Boya, in Mount Mary. We went looking for conveners, and we got Anyangwe and Monzo to come and join our senior colleague, Barrister Ekontang Elat, in Boya. We paid their hotel bills, we fed them for the day they were there. I mean, Cameroon Anglophone movement. Now, that his outing was intended against the interim government. Because if you listen to it very carefully, very, very carefully, you'll know that this is a man who is jealous. He lost the election. It was not what you call it, the selection of the person that will act as an acting president when Seseko was arrested in Nigeria. He lost that election, that selection. He was a candidate. Dr. Sako was a candidate. Chris Anu was a candidate. Bobga Harmony was a candidate. And Dr. Sako won that election. And now, everybody who was in that, except Chris Anu, every person who was in that selection has been in this revolution till today. Dr. Anyangwe, Professor Anyangwe packed his bag and badges and left until he resurfaced after his retirement somewhere in England and made statements. He has been making derogatory statements against the interim government since then. Listen to him. Professor Anyangwe does not know when the self-defense was launched. He doesn't know that. That was 2018. He doesn't know any fighter on the ground. He forms a fund to raise money, and he comes and he makes an audio ridiculing the interim government. Oh, they call people president, they call people your excellency. You do not politicize a revolution. What does he mean by that? I don't think that man has read anything about revolutions. Because if he did, he would not make that kind of ridiculous statement. And I beg to differ that Anyangwe is a leader. He is no leader. He's an intellectual. He has never led anything that I know of. He is of the legal profession like me. He's a teacher. And for him to make that kind of ridiculous audio, and where is he right now? I pointed it in that audio. He's in Canada to do what? He went to Canada with Monzo. We know Monzo's position. Monzo is a federalist, and he makes no apologies about it. Anyangwe, I can tell us now that Anyangwe has turned his back on the restoration of the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon and Ambazonia. Because if not, what is he doing in Canada? When this war broke out, and all of us have been struggling, Anyangwe has never given a penny to anybody. We have been drafting for years now. Where is Anyangwe? He wants now to come now and put a fund because he's on retirement. He wants to collect money for himself. Otherwise, he's making that fund to give whom? And he's talking to the fighters on the ground. Does he know any fighter on the ground? Does he know how the extent of to the extent to which the fighting has gone? Can he tell us? Professor Anyangwe, I used to respect him, but not anymore, because he has given up. He is now working. He is now hands in glove with Monzo, and they have gone to Canada to prepare their federal whatever. I don't have any respect for Anyangwe because When you lose election, that doesn't mean that you leave the organization. All the things that selection, Anyangwe has never showed up anywhere in the interim government. At that time, he was Paddy. He wanted to be Paddy. He wanted to be the leader. But the people saw that he could not lead anything. Like my senior colleague says, revolutionary leaders emerge. I wouldn't call that an election, but it was a selection, and he lost woefully, and then walked away, and nobody has heard from him since. And then he will come now and make audios and putting information about the raising of funds to do what? To do what? Is it today that this war has been going on? 6 years today. What has he given a penny for the war effort? No. And I don't know if anybody knows. It should correct me. He has not been doing what we have been doing here, drafting to make sure that the boys have what it takes to defend themselves, to defend our people, to defend the population. So,
but what I think is
I don't
he
think
has not been.
Waste time talking about him.
But I think it's important that we elaborate on this. What I know is that most probably he has not been giving resources towards our cause, but definitely the efforts that you find his gang, Mangam, all the Sisiko lovers takes resources. Where they get the resources from is where we place questions. But then,
correct.
That is not even where I want us to go. I want to ask myself, what was Anyangwe thinking when he masterminded the constitution that has just been ameliorated today? Why did he suddenly turn against the constitution? Why would he make preposterous statements that he's aware do not meet logic? He should be an international lawyer. It brings me back into the room of the night when the Nera 10 were disappeared. Surprisingly, that was the first and only meeting that Cousin Anyangwe at Milan were absent when Sisiko was present. Until today, lots of stories, lots of empty holes, answers to questions that are void. Maybe, Barrister Tim, you want to cue in there?
Well, thank you. I like to deal with what we know than what we don't know. I don't want to speculate on what happened because right now, I personally don't even know what they were doing in the hotel.
Now, Sisiko on several counts. Now, let me help you in. Let me help you, Barrister Tim. Sisiko on several counts when he was out of Incommunicado and already in Konegi made statements. There was even a meeting I was present and I got offended. The meeting where Chris Arno was dismissed by him or fired or asked to be disciplined by him. I think I was the only person that spoke to him in a way that he was surprised during that meeting. He said it was for humanitarian reasons. So I want to paint the picture again. That a few days after he had addressed the nation, he was in the United States addressing the people of Ambazonia 31st December night, and then took a flight less than 72 hours later in a rush to go and discuss about refugees. That's the story that the scoopers wanted to sell, that Milan Atom was trying to sell, and that Sisiko Q into. You can go right ahead.
I don't know what Say wants to say. What the important thing is that those of them who were not there are lucky because they too would have been picked. So let us take that one aside. Let us deal with what we know. That's what I was saying. We know that according to Professor Anyangwe, he wants to raise money to fund the struggle. Two things to note there. If he raises money whatever money he raises, he becomes the leadership of that group that raises money. If he sends that money to A, B, or C, and they will pay allegiance to him. Bottom line, because the piper who pays the piper dictates the tune. But not that the issue. Before you go pay money in any fund raising, which Professor Anyangwe or someone else is advertising, these are the questions that you must ask yourself. Professor Anyangwe knows that there was something called SCAPAC. That was the treasurer, the fundraiser of this struggle in 2017. There was something called SCAPAC. It is based in Boston. Professor Anyangwe knows that when they set up their interim government, they dismissed SCAPAC. They said in their resolution that SCAPAC was not going to be their treasurer anymore. The question is, what does Professor Anyangwe say about the money that was in SCAPAC? SCAPAC paid him transport to Gambia many times. Going forward, Professor Anyangwe and many people know that when Sisiku came here, we raised a lot of money. They go and do diplomacy, thousands of dollars. That money was put in a bank account somewhere, being run by Tabinyang. It was not Sisiku's personal money. What does Professor Anyangwe say of that money? Was the money done to fund the revolution which purportedly started by Sisiku? Those are questions that people may not be asking, but they are questions that require answers. He was part of those structures. And to just keep quiet about it and say we want to set up another fundraising is not being honest to ourselves. Then let me address the other issue which you have mentioned there. Professor Anyangwe, these people I know them personally very, very well. Professor Anyangwe has the right to postulate for his federation or whatever thing he wants. That's his right. But let him tell people what is legally right. Professor Munzo has said many times before that that the United Nations will not revisit history in our own case. Yes, Professor Munzo, if the United Nations does not revisit history, the United Nations creates history. If it doesn't revisit history, it creates history. And these are two examples. All of us know there was something called USSR, Soviet Socialist Republics. It was a union that had one flag at the United Nations. It broke down, and members of that thing, everyone has his own independent, has a flag right now. That's making history. Professor Munzu knows that there was something called Sudan, Republic of Sudan. There was only one country there. The United Nations has allowed Sudan to spread, to break out and create two countries with flags flying at the United Nations, Sudan and Southern Sudan. Mr. Munzu knows that there was something called Yugoslavia that has broken off. They had only one flag at the United Nations. Each country that was in that thing is a member of the United Nations. And again, Dr. Munzu worked in the United Nations, know it better than me. I've read through the United Nations Charter. I've not found anywhere in the United Nations Charter that says that once into a union, the union cannot break off. I've not seen any place. Let him quote me any article in the United Nations Charter that says that once you unite, you must die in the you must die in that union. It's not there. Let him tell me or tell us why the United Nations has not amended its charter to take away the right to self-determination. No, I'm talking about Munzu. The right to self-determination still remains in the United Nations Charter. It's still there. It is a very right that the Quebecois have been trying to exercise for several years. It is a very right which the Scots have been trying to exercise for so many years. What is the difference between the right to self-determination by the people of Scotland and the people of Quebec to the people of Ambazonia or Southern Cameroon? Let them give me the text of the United Nations that says this. And against, above all, Professor Dr. Munzu made a statement that they went to New York and bought some flags from stores, came and staged them at the Mongo Bridge. I don't know whether Dr. Munzu knows that there is no superstore in New York where all United States, our United Nations membership flags are sold or are given. You have to buy it. So there was nothing new there. Right now that we are talking, the flags are being sold everywhere. If you go there, you want to buy a Ukrainian flag, you buy one. You want to buy a Japanese flag, you buy one. I live in this town, it is called State College. It's a university town. When students are graduating from different parts of the country, we go and buy those flags.
Yeah, but so there's
no news that we bought flags from somewhere and went on stage at the Mongol Bridge. That is absolute misunderstanding. I don't know what he meant by that. So let him stand for what he wants, but tell the truth what it is, interpret the law as it is. Again, can someone, especially Dr. Munzu, tell me an article in the United Nations Charter that says that if you unite, you must die in it? You cannot live in union that you voluntarily went into it. It's not there. So let him postulate for what he wants without trying to convince us ignorantly of what does not exist. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, but Afro, I know your worry. Are we now talking about Munzo? But you realize that this statement of Southern Cameroon's origin, the Anyangwes, the Munzos, now the Balas, their attitude vis-a-vis our movement or liberation movement is intricately linked. And so sometimes you cannot talk about one in isolation. You want to you want to compare and contrast. So maybe you have a reaction in that line.
Yes. Professor Anyangwe is on record for having said that this idea of government is wrong, and that if we don't do away with the government, we are going nowhere. Like the interim government, right? He said that in one of his outings. Now, Paddy, before I proceed, I want to correct something about the Naira 10. Because I was counsel for the Naira 10, so I know a little bit more. The Naira 10 met in Nera Hotel at the invitation of Seseko. Seseko invited some people. He was brought to Nigeria by phone call made by Atan Milan. And he arrived in Nigeria before Atan Milan. Atan Milan knows more than everybody about what was supposed to take place in Nera Hotel. And Anyangwe was not part of it because he was no longer a member of the group, or he was a member but always absent. He was teaching in South Africa in Kwazala. What did they call it? What did they call that university? He was teaching in South Africa, and these meetings were taking place in Nigeria. So he did not come there. What annoyed me on his outing is the ridiculous description of the leadership of the interim government. And I take offense if anybody wants to ridicule a leader, somebody who has put his head for this revolution to move forward. It's not supposed to be Anyangwe, because he lost the selection process to become a leader of the interim government. And when he lost, now the government, the thing about government is no longer useful. And he can sit in Canada with his blue cap and make an audio to raise money for what? Does he know one single fighter on the ground? Does he know when this fight broke out? Does he know how the self-defense apparatus was put together? Has he given one penny for the war effort? He wants fighters on the ground to believe him, and that people sit in the diaspora and send one AK-47, and then they want to control you. They want to do this. Walk away from them. That's what he said. Just like he said, the idea of government is wrong. He is saying that the idea of the interim government having a say on what is happening on the ground on our fighters, he's against it. He wants to destroy the interim government because he is not part of it. And now he has gone back to become a federalist and travel to Canada with Munzu. And he can wear his blue cap and speak. I don't want to continue to insult anybody, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I took offense, and I've made that audio which is circulating. Let him hear me. I was in Boston with Anyangwe. We appeared on television in Boston with him, and he had nothing to say about what is happening on the ground because he knew nothing. But since I knew coming from ground zero and I knew how the fight was going, I said everything that I was supposed to say on that Boston television. Anyangwe has long left this fight. Let him stay where he is. If he wants to raise money to take care of the retirement, he should not use the fighters on the ground to raise his money.
Now, Barrister Fru, I think there is more to Anyangwe's behavior, sabotaging. We understand in dirty politics, you want to give reasons why people should turn around from an angle to your angle. It's like trying to dim the light of another so that your light can be brighter. That's the nasty side of politics. And Anyangwe started playing this side of politics only a few days when President Sako took over. We were together in a major in about 3 fora. Anyangwe every day, he was supposed to be the president's advisory council. He was a member of the president's advisory committee or council at the time. I don't know, but he was an advisor. Never showed up. He was an advisor at that time, but he gets up, doesn't advise the government. He was more like a political leader, presenting to our face every day what we are feeling. He pushed through his rhetorics, the scoop that Milam Atta initiated. Now, Milam Atta started at the time by saying that the scope is to enhance and build and strengthen the interim government from whatever dimension. But we realized later on that it was a way of creeping through the system, trying to gain some power in any eventuality where Sisiko comes out and nobody is respecting their idea. The point is, you see, Milan was planning ahead of time. Prior to the creation of his so-called scoop, we're getting down into all of this so that Ambazonians get to know it. Sisiko was incommunicado. In fact, Nera 10 was incommunicado. Nobody had spoken to them. Cameroon had not even revealed their well-being. The scoop was created. Even the day that it was announced that they had been forced into Yaoundé, you had Beneza Akwanga and others actually attesting to it. No Ambazonian believed because Cameroon government had made no statement. But the scoop was a preparation. Why this preparation is a concern. And today we now see Anyangwe doesn't seem to see any good in the fact that the government he so detested would force the international community to create a negotiation. He's among those who sabotaged it and spoiled it.
Paddy.
And let me finish with this so that Nijo can come. You're going to have your time.
Let me say something. Let me say something here, because about the arrest of Sisiko and 9 others in Nera Hotel. Milam Atam knows more with Sisiko. They planned it.
I'm not saying any less.
Listen to me now. Listen to me. They planned it, and the reason for that meeting in the hotel, I don't want to say it now as counsel because I got to know the reason, and as counsel I'm not at liberty to disclose what I found out about my clients. But let me say this:
yes,
they had an agenda to meet La République du Cameroun in Nera Hotel.
Yes, as counsel, you can keep your details. We as paparazzis, as the media, we have our intelligence.
Haven't heard that he has been arrested. None of them were arrested. He delayed. He tried to delay it in Lagos. He had landed Lagos and now was delaying there until they went.
Media presence, gave them a statement.
Oh man, the thing that you cannot deceive anybody here. I went to Abuja and I took 2 Nigerian lawyers took me to lunch and told me the whole story. And that's how I got informed. And whenever I asked Seseko, what was the reason for the meeting in Nera Hotel? You know what?
He gets offended.
He gets offended. What difference does it make? We're already here. We have been arrested. He has never said anything to his counsel. And I found out why they were meeting there. I found out by myself because I've been to Nigeria.
Just to affirm what Barrister Fru is saying. Just to affirm what Barrister Fru is saying. Sisiko got offensive and defensive at any time when there was a clear question as to how did you get
what
there?
Were you doing
Why
in
did
Ireland?
you get there? Why did you get there? How did you get there? And then you realize the APNC was a calculated attempt to hide the fact. Where Barrister Fru, Barrister Team, legal minds, you can keep what you want to keep. We in the media will say what we speculate or what our intelligence. We are way aware that prior to that time, there was a constant communication between Sisiko and Yaoundé. Rene Sadi was the mastermind that flew into Nigeria a couple of times for backdoor discussions. These are some of the consequences of backdoor discussion.
There was
Nijo,
there were
Nijo,
those are the planners.
Nijo, you're welcome
to
this panel. I think it's time for you to greet the people.
I'm at school. When I have senior citizens like this speaking, I'm at school. I'm taking down notes.
Yes, you're welcome. Amazonians are listening here.
Thank you. I mean, it's amazing.
Paddy,
you guys are doing.
I don't want to say.
Go
ahead. The mic is yours now, Nijo, please.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, let me greet my senior citizens, barristers, both barristers. It's Barrister Mbesa with us.
No, yes, he's here.
I'm right here. I see you.
So greetings, barristers. Yes. So yeah, I've taken a note, a page full of notes this evening already. So I'm privileged to have the opportunity again to be on the same panel with the people of the law, and of course, Director Paddy. I'm glad you're saying that they have their reasons to sit on the facts. And you of the media, you also have the right to give the information they found it.
What we know.
And when Barrister said that they went to that hotel to meet La République, I think they met La République. In the layman's language, they had an appointment.
Oh yeah, they came armed. They came armed to take them.
Yes, they were they were going to meet people in white collar shirts, but when I met La République with guns and military attire, so they met. In a sarcastic way.
Atta Milan knows everything. Up to today,
absolutely,
they have swallowed it.
Absolutely, and the fact that he was delaying when this just happened, we knew that he delayed his flight. He missed two. He missed two flights that he was supposed to get on before he got onto the third. And somebody really analyzed that all of what he did was.
I don't know whether I don't know whether I had made this clear. I was the first to discover the Naira 10.
Yeah.
In Yaoundé. And that same day, I came and made a pronouncement to the whole world in a Canadian English, and I said I met them, and I met them in with tracksuits, one tracksuit that they had bought for them, and changed and put it on them, and they were in Incommunicado for more than 10 months.
Yeah,
and only amongst you people outside here You were saying that they
You
have been
talk now.
killed, they have been thrown in the sea. John Baakuru made a noise about it, that it has been thrown out, and I announced that the Naira 10 are alive. I met them, and so on and so forth. And it
Correct.
went
And those are
viral across the world. But let me tell you, Siseko
Well,
and
I think we have to
Atamula
be.
and that meeting.
It will be a little bit
And that
organized. I
meeting,
think
and
Nijo wanted to say something.
Anyangwe was not invited. And if Anyangwe was invited, he probably would have been picked up. Because Anyangwe has never played an important role in this revolution. Except, of course, the constitution that he helped draft in Nigeria. What else has he done? He abandoned after he was not selected as the head of the interim head of the interim government, while Siseko was in prison, and walked away till today. Now he's making statements. He has just his whole fight is against the interim government, because he made a statement that this idea of government, if we don't get rid of it, we will not go anywhere. He made that statement.
Yes, let's make some progress, Barrister Pro. This is a known fact. His hatred for President Sako is unquestionable. And to make progress in this discussion, at the time these individuals were picked up and everybody was just grappling information, Tapang Ivor said a lot of foolish things as well. It's not just John Akuru. The speculations were many, and you had Akuru just coming to amplify some of the tiny voices that believe that these individuals had been killed and thrown into an Atlantic Ocean. Now, Nijo, you followed the situation from your direction like us, and you may have a word or say. And then why are we getting into this? Because you have Cousin Anyangwe that is supposed to be an elder, that is supposed to be a counselor, a legal mind for the Amazonian liberation movement, coming to make very childish, preposterous statements from nowhere. These are statements actually one would think are coming from a vacuum. They say there's no work of art or literature that is from a vacuum. But you want to ask yourself, where is he coming from? Did he actually document the history of Amazonia? Why the U-turn? Nijo, talk to us, please.
Yeah, thank you, Director Paddy. And again, let me honor my previous speakers, and I'm humbled and privileged to have the opportunity to make an input in this. And all I would say is, as a beginner and someone new to the revolution, I have grown to get used to the fact that many people have different ways of exhibiting their frustration. And in most cases, the frustration is a kind of walk away, abandon, change camps, or do something to hurt someone else, in terms of sabotage. And the list is long. We can start on Anyangwe and go down the list of and include all the Monzos. I mean, pick the list of those who were in Canada and go back, take a step back on their profile to see what their original intention was and why they are where they are now. Because if you look at it, it's because their initial position was either resisted or didn't materialize. And so out of that, there is some element of frustration, and they're thinking, right, if it's not going my way, then I'm going to block it going someone else's way. This is evidence of people who, as weak as the word might sound, being jealous, but the people who have a very weak way, a weak mind of trying to make a point to another person. Now, instead of, if you would expect that a bona fide Amazonian who stands in a position and realizes that there is an element of difference between them and another camp, instead of trying to stabilize or minimize the difference between them and form a stronger bond, what they do is they tend to exaggerate that difference and then turn their backs on each other. And this has been the fallout. This has been the pattern of behavior of adults in this unfortunately, in the time that we needed more people is the time that we're losing people, because initially the differences were very little, and then and because there's lack of sense of collaboration, those differences then develop and alienate people amongst themselves. If you can imagine, we keep saying that the Amazonian has a population of 8 million people, and if you look at how many people are actually actively involved in this in the diaspora, if we think that the Amazonian diaspora has a count of about 2 million, 3 million, Dr. Paddy, you probably have a better statistics on this. What count can we be looking at? 2.5, 3 million? I don't know if Barrister has a figure, but if all of these people were to show an active or proactive interest in this revolution, we would not have time to sit here and talk about people who have exaggerated the difference between them, because what an average Amazonian needs now, knowing what has happened within the last 6 months, and 6 years, and when we talk about the last 6 years, is we're trying to minimize the damage done in the past 61 years, but we just want to focus on when this war was declared on us. And before this war was declared on us, late Karinatumi, his research was the figure 86%. At that time, 86%, as he said, was it 83 or 86%? I know it was above 80%. Of
it was
Amazonians, above 80% of Amazonians wanted serve. They were determined that they wanted their independence. Now, you would expect that from that point to where we are now, that count in terms of percentages should be higher than 90, considering the atrocities that have befallen the Amazonians, and particularly people with some academic knowledge about revolutions. I'm just buying a leaf from Barrister's extrapolation. I mean, if you pick somebody like the Monzos and the Anyangwes and that we've been talking about, you would expect that these are people who should be coming onto ABC and educating our fighters on home front, donating to support their LGAs. I wonder if any of them has registered on their LGA at least.
No.
So if anyone is involved in this struggle and has not registered in their LGA, that is an indication that they disrespect the government in place, and they would do everything as they're doing their power
in their capacity
to discredit the government in whatever way they're doing, and worst of all, actually circulate audios that everybody condemns, and it is ridiculous, but it's something we have to deal with. And I think the only way to deal with is to carry on the education that ABC is doing. Get people of knowledge, people of expertise like barristers to come, and I wish we could have this more often and get it penetrate and save this in audios and circulate, because this is very educational. I mean, listening to them for the last 15-20 minutes that I logged on, I learned so much, because don't forget that most Amazonians developed a special interest on our issues partly after the 6th year, because the history of Amazonia has been technically blocked by La Republique.
There is an emancipation
from being written, from being taught. So there were no articles, and if any Amazonian has followed this keenly after the 6th war, the 6-year war, this is the only time that meaningful history deadlines can recuperate from people's minds, because they've heard this, this is what happened at this time, this is what happened at this time. Before then, you couldn't find this anywhere on any newspaper or in any library to read. Everything was being hidden. It was a taboo, and you would come to confirm that a whole lecturer in a university in Ambazonia loses his job because he asks a question on a current event, something that is happening, not something that happened, something that is happening. And to show you the degree of malice in this all setup, where we're talking about La République governing, you dismiss a serving university lecturer because he has a question on a current event. It's diabolical. You can't believe it, but it's happening. So, Comrade Paddy, I can see my senior comrade is, as your team has grown bigger. Let me give the floor to Comrade Anyangwe.
All right.
Yes, Comrade Sylvester Zama.
Yes,
Comrade Sylvester Zama, you are welcome. I think Ambazonians have been anxiously waiting on you to join this panel because of the necessity of this discussion. And I think your presence will just transition us into the next phase. You most probably have heard the foundations that was laid down. We woke up this morning to hear some preposterous, uncommon sense statements or utterances made by Cas Anyangwe in defiance of the very interim constitution which he masterminded. And we feel that is not just disgraceful, that is more or less a betrayal of a people who are fighting an existential battle at a time when the enemy is strategizing, re-strategizing, escalating their ground game, and when we're thinking that great minds should come together to encourage, to advise, we would have someone who supposedly is an elder struggling so hard to keep us in slavery. Please talk to us. You're welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, all the panelists. It's been a while. In war, there's so many things that go on psychologically. And I think one of the big issues with people who've been fighters of this war, like Dr. Carson Anyangwe has been, I quite remember when I was in the university, he was my lecturer. He was my professor. And he's been fighting this fight for a long time. And I think battle fatigue has set in. They have their mind in the right place, but psychologically they are not there because they are tired. They've been fighting this war in different facets of it. And at this point in time, no matter what the utterances are he is making, I think his heart is still in this fight, but it might be, the outlook for him might be very, very different from what we are. Because the people who are fighting this war today are very different. They are kids of children that he raised, and some of us were his students. The outlook for us is quite different from perhaps his perception and outlook for Ambazonia, even though they were the people who were laid some of the foundations or foundation blocks of this fight. I think we have, as a people, have to continue our role into educating our people regarding this war. It's a fight for imparting our people with the knowledge that they need to do to fight in this war. We have to continuously get our people informed, get them involved, and get them galvanized. It's a war situation, and sometimes you see in situations like in some parts of Ambazonia, people are just going around their businesses like there's nothing going on. We want them to live a life, yes, but we want them to understand that there's still war going on. There are citizens of Ambazonia who are being killed wantonly every day by the Republic of Cameroon soldiers. Dr. Anyangwe and a lot of the cohorts in Konengi and their perception for this war has really changed. And their understanding probably might have changed too based on coercion in jail. But I said we should not rely on their judgment in jail. Because of psychological torture, you are meant to say and think differently. You are conditioned to think differently. So let's move on with this fight and continue getting those disciples that we can get and those fighters that we can get, those people who can stand for this republic or that we are trying to, a free republic that we are trying to build, and move on. There will be backsliders, yes. There will be people who battle fatigue, yes. Let them rest, let them vent out, and we have to move on.
Thank you very much. You just came and laid the foundation for the next phase. We understand that the ground game has got to change, because as we move on and observe whatever we are observing right now, the ground game has got to change. And you happen to be the masterminds, one among the masterminds that are having this calculation, restructuring, re-strategizing, wanting to do what you've done before, what you know how to do best. I'm coming back to you, but then where we intended to begin, there was a reset. We had to look at the laws that govern the war, why the Indian government has been doing what it's been doing. And I'll give the opportunity for the two barristers to speak on that briefly. I'll come back to you and Nijo. That will help us to conclude the program. On the side of Nijo, he should be preparing to give to us some more facts and figures and why and projections ahead of today. And you should be able to tell Ambazonians what you think has been done so far and what you think should not have been done, or what you think we can do and do better, or where you think we defaulted. The identification of a problem is the first step to a solution. And I'm happy that you, amongst many, have identified this. Now, Barrister Tim, I'm coming back to you. You are like more of an advisor to this interim government when it comes to the decisions, the policies they make vis-a-vis this war. Maybe you want to talk to us in that delight.
I will, but let me make a few remarks on what we just said before. You know, this revolution is so complex. Those of you who know how old Paddy was in 1994, you were a little boy, I guess. But in 1994, when we heard AAC2 in Bamenda, the man who read the proclamation was Dr. Munzu. And those who were there, Dr. Munzu wept. He fell down and wept and cried. Tears came down his eyes for what we had gone through. And so, proceeding from that, he's no longer the Munzu of 1994. He has left the struggle. No problem with that. We of this struggle, when we say this generation is a no-nonsense generation, they do not include me. They don't include Dr. Munzu. They don't include Dr. Anyangwe. We're old. We're no longer of this generation. We are not the no-nonsense generation there, but we'll give them advice on how to move if it is necessary. So any of us of that past generation who will come on video, audio, and stamp his feet down and say, this thing must stop. You're wasting your time. It's not going to stop because you said it. It's not going to stop because you're not of this generation. That said, it's good for us to look a little bit back. People don't know who Dr. Munzu was. If Dr. Munzu joined the AAC 1 and 2, it was not by accident. How did he get there? The conveners of AAC 2 AAC 1 and 2 came from the Constitutional Drafting Committee of the tripartite. Munzu was there, but who was he representing? Munzu represented the CPDM. He had a big office in Chinga in Palais de Congrès. In addition to that, he was a university professor. But because of this struggle, Munzu lost everything. He lost his job, his big high-profile job at the CPDM. He lost his university job. So he's one of the greatest victims of this struggle. But that said, the revolution has taken a toll on him and on many others. And my advice is this: if anytime you want to leave because you can no longer bear it, leave quietly and go to where you want to belong. Don't try to destroy what this generation to which you don't belong are prosecuting. Just live quietly. Now I'm speaking. If I want to go away, I will just go away. I don't make video, I don't make audio, I just go away quietly and leave the generation to continue with the battle. That is how it should work. Again, knowledge was not meant only for us. The younger generation knows more than we do. No, that we didn't know. We can carry titles of lawyers, professors, and so on and so on. The younger generation may have more than what we know. And back to the Nera 10. Whatever they were trying to discuss in Nera Hotel is not my problem. They had the right to go to Nera Hotel and discuss what they wanted to discuss. Like people had no right legally and otherwise to come to Nigeria and catch them. That was illegal, no matter whatever thing they were discussing there. These people were supposed to be there and they were not there. They were just lucky. Be it Anyangwe, be it Mila Atam. Those who were not there are just lucky because they had come there, there would not have been any mercy for them.
But it seems I'm not trying to cut you short, but
Let me correct something, Paddy.
Just a moment. Just a moment. There are people who believe that backdoor talks as a leader during this struggle with La Republique du Cameroon, knowing who the enemy is illegal. That's from the Ambazonian perspective. It is in their rights as individuals to initiate whatever talks. But going to have backdoor talks as leaders of the movement, there are those who believe that is wrong.
Let me correct something.
Let me finish my slot.
About the Nera 10, because I was counting.
But it's not true. Before the thing comes up,
let me finish my slot. Let me finish my slot.
I thought you had finished.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying that whatever thing they were going to discuss there, legally or illegally, the Republic had no right to go across these borders to Nigeria and catch them. I think Mr. Fru knows this. I hear that one of the charges that they were charged for in the so-called court was that they didn't carry identity cards. Somebody expected them to carry identity cards.
Yeah, but Mr. Fru, you're going to come in. Just give a few minutes, let him conclude, please.
Someone expected this people sitting in Nera Hotel in Nigeria to carry identity cards. And to summarize and to end my slot, you remember you talked about this first meeting, communicating with the Nera 10, Sisiku and the rest. Coincidentally, in Yaoundé, when they were in prison, coincidentally, I was in that meeting. Where Sisiku was talking. My take home from that meeting is not all what went on there. Somebody asked Sisiku in that meeting, could you think that, for example, because you're communicating by phone, could your phone have been compromised? Could somebody have tapped your phone to know what you were talking to come and catch you? What was his response? This man said he is a telephone technician and he knows what is meant by tapping phones. His phone could not have been tapped. How were he caught? That was the takeover I took. The other day he was so angry if you even challenged him. So whatever the case, it doesn't change his status as a prisoner. They captured you, whether you liked it or not. They took you away by force, out of your own stupidity. I always said that if they had not taken away Sisiku, if they had come there and taken him from Sisiku, they would have blamed him. Would have said that he betrayed them. He called his meeting so stupidly without even a messenger standing at the door. I was the first man to be taken, handcuffed, and here they were naked in the plane, dumped there like a bag of Gary. So,
listen.
Back to what you said. We, as far as the internal government is concerned, the advice I give.
Can I correct something here?
This might just be his last one.
Let me finish my slot. Let me finish my.
You have all the time to speak. This might just be one of the last time to speak.
Let me just correct something here. Let me just correct. I will take less than.
Okay, go right ahead, please. Go right ahead, please.
Listen, there was supposed to be a meeting between the United Nations envoy, La Republique Cameroon, and Siseko and his team. Siseko left without informing anybody or in America or anywhere that was a member of government, and went to Lagos, where he was called by Atta Milan and given that information. He left abruptly, abandoning everything that he was doing in New York, that he was supposed to do in New York. That meeting was a meeting planned by all three parties. So we can sit here and say La Republic
Barrister
don't
Fu,
have any right
Barrister Fu,
in
this
that
is a revelation.
La Republic did
Barrister
not have
Fu,
a
you're
right
bringing a
to.
revelation now.
Yes, listen
Barrister
to
Fu,
me.
you're bringing a
I was
revelation
counsel.
which I want to amplify. There's a revelation
Can
you're
you
just
allow
giving
me,
now.
man?
Yes, I want to
Can you
say,
allow
I want
me
you
to
to talk. I want you to talk. Just give me a few seconds, please. You have just reviewed something which you are going to conclude on. You are now telling us that Sisiko prepared his backdoor meeting with La République du Cameroon in Nera Hotel than a meeting that was organized in New York, where all parties were going to be involved. Am I correct?
Saying.
Good.
I'm
Go
saying,
right ahead.
Atam Milan deceived Sisiko, whether he deceived or did not, but he said told Sisiko in America. Sisiko was here. He was had a he slept in somewhere in Maryland here. What I don't know where they were, and he called him and told him, "We are going to be meeting with an envoy from the United Nations. They will come with La République du Cameroon, and we will sort matters out." And Sisiko tells Sisiko to leave immediately and come. So Sisiko left immediately, did not go back to New York where there was supposed to be a fundraising. He just left, went to that hotel. Before he left, he called Nalova B, who was in Nigeria, to rent a hotel, and that's how they got to the Nera Hotel. So La République planned a meeting, but and told Atam Milan to, I don't know how they got the information. Atam Milan claimed that they were supposed to meet an envoy, La République du Cameroon, and Sisiko's member of Sisiko's government to negotiate this matter. That's how he got.
Okay, let me finish. I don't feel must love, Mr. Paddy. I don't feel must love.
La République coming to Nera Hotel.
Just a moment.
They came there with a cover from the Nigerian forces, and they arrested them in Nera Hotel. I sat on the chairs that they were sitting on in Nera Hotel. When I went to Abuja, I was taken there by two Nigerian lawyers. I wanted to know where Nera Hotel was in Abuja. Those were La République and Sisiko and the so-called envoy from the United Nations was supposed to meet there. No envoy arrived, and those who arrived, while they were waiting for their fish, the 10 people were waiting for fish to be cooked for them. They arrived and took them away. So, on that point, I cannot say La République was not supposed to be there. Whether they were there, it's a normal meeting. It was not a normal meeting, sir. It was a meeting planned to arrest the leaders of this movement. And then the only place where we think that Nigeria and Cameroon violated international law was when they took them, they arrested them there, took them and locked them up for 20 days and put them in a plane and sent back to where they were running from. But for that meeting in Nera Hotel, it was legal.
Now, let me situate this discussion as we conclude on this, so that we don't exceed our time too much. Undaunted will be coming, and there's breaking news for Undaunted to bring for us tonight. We will hint you on it at the tail end of this discussion. If you look at this, Barrister team, from the revelations we're getting this evening, this is fresh. I'm not sure any platform had this. There was a prepared meeting in New York that was Ambazonia's interest, and so an insider who
it was a false alarm by Atam Milan. There was no meeting prepared in New York. Atam Milan used the United Nations to deceive Sisiko, and they got to that hotel, and they were waiting to negotiate. And they were. If I tell, I don't want to tell you.
No, but if you listen to me, you get where I'm coming from. You just haven't listened. What I'm trying to say is that there was supposed to be something in the United States that was undermined by Sisiko, and then he found himself in Nigeria, being swayed into Nigeria by Atam Milan. So those who believe that Atam Milan was an agent distracting him from what to do that was right might just be correct from what you have said this evening. Barrister Team, please, you have
Correct.
to very brief. You have
That
to
is the
react to
correct.
this very
That is
briefly so we
what
can
I
go to the
found out
next
in
question.
Nigeria.
Well, just let me finish my slot now.
So that's
Let me
the
finish
where
my
you
slot.
will help us go. So, Barrister Team, please react
This,
very briefly.
this is what I was
Before we get to
saying. This is what I was saying, but for what you have said has not added or subtracted what I've said. I've said whatever thing they were meeting to do.
It was a normal meeting.
Let me finish.
It was not a normal meeting, sir.
I didn't say it was a normal meeting. Listen to my words. I said whatever thing they were meeting to do in. They had the right to hold the meeting. I still say so. They had the right to hold their meeting in Nigeria. Whatever thing they were discussing there, they were right to do it in Nigeria. So the Republic had no right to go there, catch them. That's the point I've made, and I'm insisting on that. There are things I don't want to bring here. When Sisiku was here, I've never brought it here in December before he flew to Nigeria. He was in Maryland. They invited me to come and meet him. I was sick. When I called again, they say he had gone to Atlanta to fly from there. I was supposed to meet him there. It was too late. They told me that they just left. I sent him a present. This was not necessary here. So I was not new. I'm not so blind to what was happening there. But for the purpose of this discussion,
all right. If you doubt
you and me have the right to sit here, and we and me have the right to sit in the United States and say what we want to say. The Republic has no right to come here and catch us. If we were criticizing them,
La Republic was
that's the
part
point
of
I'm
the
trying to
meeting,
make.
sir.
So
La Republic
what
was part of
we're
that
holding
meeting.
here is a meeting right now, and we're criticizing Yaoundé. Mr. Fu, let me finish my point. What we're sitting down talking right here is a meeting discussing and criticizing Yaoundé. Do they have the power to come, the right to come here and catch you and take home? No, legally they cannot do that. Again, I've said, and I repeat.
They were not.
Let me finish my point. I've said, I
heard
that people like
to make progress.
I heard that Madam Gang was supposed to be there. Milama Tam was supposed to be there. In fact, I've talked to them. But I've concluded right here many times before, whoever was supposed to be there and was not there was just lucky. The summary is that whatever meeting they were trying to hold there, they were duped. And that's why they were arrested. So whoever was even planning to get there and never got there was lucky never to have been picked. If Milama Tam had gone there, you too would have ended in Yaoundé. If Anyangwe had gone there, you would have ended in Yaoundé. If I had gone there, I would have ended in Yaoundé. And so I was trying to transition to your question. The advice we'll give to the interim government for prosecuting the war. As far as
before
possible,
you even transition to that, Barrister Team.
That was your question to me.
Before you get into that, yes. Before you get into that, let me make this statement. We've all come to one agreement that on scrutinized discussions, serious discussions with the opponent during this time of war by leaders of the movement is unauthorized because the consequences could be drastic. And the Nera Hotel is a great example. That's what I'd like us to affirm before we move on.
No. It's not that.
No,
your language. No. Let me finish. It's not say unauthorized. No, it's not advised. Because
it's not advised. Thank you.
Yes. One president, Sako wants to go and hold a meeting somewhere. Who is going to authorize him? He will going to consult. You're going to consult me and say, I advise you not to do that thing. Yes, you're advised. No, because nobody is going to authorize the president. The presidency has.
Let's move on now into the subject matter. We have just a few more minutes to have that discussion. These two gentlemen waiting here, Ambazonians want to get the calculation on. In fact, if they don't have that, they're going to beat me this evening. They want to listen to Sylvester Zama. They want to listen to Nijo. What is happening? Because we now know the problem.
I've not answered the question you gave me.
Yes, answer the question. That's why
you asked me. Yeah, you asked what advice I will give the interim government for prosecuting this war on the issue of war crimes. Let me answer that question before we go to the rest. Yes, and the General Convention on War Crimes. I was saying that as far as possible, we advise all our restoration fighters to respect those rules. They don't have to take the whole code and read in pages, but they have the basic guidelines that do it. But what you see going on is human reaction on the spur of a moment. That's what is happening. You and me placed in that place. If somebody come and cut off your head, I will turn around and act very differently. I'm not going to take the general convention I'm going to read and say, well, I'm not supposed to respond by cutting his own head off. So what is going on there is as a result of what the enemy is doing to us. There's not so much you can bear as a human being. And so we advise them as far as we can to respect the rules. And they know the general guidelines. But is it possible somebody might have gone out of the rules? Yes, faced by practical circumstances. Human beings behave differently. That is the point I wanted to make before we continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barrister Fru. The both of you will add to this at the tail end. Let me give the mic to Nijo and to Sylvester Zamat to handle this part of it. You are going to start, Nijo, over the weekend.
I'm leaving.
That's on Saturday. Okay, that would be good anyway. I think you've exhausted. Before you leave, you have a few words to make. But before you leave, even just prepare a few words to tell us as far as the Geneva Convention is concerned. Nijo, over the weekend, you started briefing us on some of the things you're already working. You're always a mastermind on working on how to get these resources together so that Sylvester Zama and the others will get to action. Talk to us again. We know in projection that there's something cooking, and you are at the background working hard to ensure that this is realized. Talk to us, please.
Yeah, thank you, Director Paddy. I think what I would say for now is that question is premature. We have a departmental meeting on Thursday, and we would dot all the I's there and cut the T's, and then if you can create space for me, I'm happy to come and talk to Ambazonians. But before that, I'd like to give the blurred picture to Ambazonians to see what we're working on, and we base our actions and our intentions from the last town hall meeting and the outreaches that our commander-in-chief himself has made, and of course from the input from the many Ambazonians. There was 270 something of them at that meeting, and there was a majority who wanted us to reactivate action on home ground. And as we are aware, we have a war. We are in a war situation, yes, and we have the Republic who are buying some of our Ambazonians who are supposed to be leaders. Yes, we know that. We also know that there are backsliders in this struggle for our independence and recognition. Yes, we know that. We also know that there is a lot of fatigue in Ambazonians, particularly the few ones who have taken on the burden to dip their hands into their pockets. So we take all of this into consideration, Comrade Paddy, and one of the lessons we've learned from the coup plotters is, I just give me 2 minutes, Richard. One of the things that, and I will not be mixing words here, Chris Anu said to take away some people along the lines of coup plotters is, he said that if he came into government, or if he became a leader, there are millionaires, the Ambazonians millionaires out there waiting to pump money in this revolution so that he could achieve what the IG is not able to achieve under our current our President Sako, and that he wanted a mantle so that these people can pump in this money. That was all propaganda. But you know what? It's not everybody who is smart at picking propaganda. He, in making that pronouncement, took along some Ambazonians who, for one reason or the other, have become fatigued. They're tired. We've drafted 2020, and before that drafting, there was lots of other fundraising events. There was the CID, people were paying monthly. So some people, and then the COVID came, some persons lost their jobs, and people's circumstances changed. And so a majority of those who have been supporting, not a majority, some of them felt that they needed a break. But you cannot have a break. This is a war. You cannot have a break during a war. And if you have a break during a war, that's a sign that you lost the battle, or you've lost the war. So he brought that propaganda and picked out these Ambazonians along with him. Now, well, I don't want to go beyond what is happening now, but every one of us now know that that was not a substantial statement for him to make. But then some people have already gone with him. And one of the other things, apart from that propaganda that they did with that group of people that they took along, is they sliced their own draft from $1,000 minimum to $200. Again, that was just to appease those other people that he took. Now, why am I bringing all of this? My department is taking all of this into consideration. We're taking the fact that we have other Ambazonians clamoring for, say, the draft amount of $1,000 is a bit too much. We have some Ambazonians who are tired, they're fatigued, they need help. We have some Ambazonians who are quite keen to. Now, when you have all of this to deal with as a department, we have to take bits left and right, and we're meeting on Thursday. That would guide our judgment. We have an idea how much money we will need to execute this war, how much money we need as a federal draft, but we need to work out the modalities. So we're going to go through the LGAs and then also give room for individuals. Apart from donating through your LGA, you can again come up and support. Okay, so an individual can do that twice. And because we don't want pledges to last too long, we're trying to include some incentives, something for people to pay earlier, something to encourage people to pay instead of pledging. We were suggesting and appealing that Ambazonians copy Barrister Fru for all the drafts that were done from day one. What he does is he makes his payment in the afternoon before the evening. When he comes in the evening, he's just showing us the receipt. So this is what we are appealing Ambazonians to do. So make your payment up front before you come and announce your money in the afternoon. But if you don't, then we have 1 or 2 days that we will give you, and you can agree what leeway you're going to give us as we lack the resources to be phoning people and asking them to redeem their drafts, but that is the way it is. So, Comrade Paddy, you can see the hot pieces of coal that we're standing on. We want to take our time and consider all of these angles and then come out with an average position for all Ambazonians who have drafted. And I remember some Ambazonians have drafted and paid in full. Others haven't paid in full. We also don't want to give those Ambazonians who haven't paid in full an opportunity to put them further down, to drag them further down on their draft. So we want to consider all of these things and see which is which. For those who have already paid and paid off, we would also be making an appeal for them to dip their hands deeper. But we also want to bear in mind the senior citizens who are just managing to pay the draft, and if they have paid and they're still owing some part, we don't want to get them committing to further debt when they have still got this. So these are the things we are dealing with on Thursday, and I bet you would get an acceptable position, an affordable position for all Ambazonians by the weekend. And of course, I would like to pop around. Looking at the date, we've got 2 dates. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead with those dates, please.
Okay, yeah. So looking at the date, we have 2 dates in mind. Again, these are tentative discussions, and I just hope my department doesn't slap me at this for letting the cat out of the bag. But these are the things we're going to discuss. We know this is the Thanksgiving season in the US, where most of our funders are. So we are not going to do this federal draft during this Thanksgiving season where people go away and the rest of it. We will want them to go enjoy themselves and then come back, and then we'll pick a date early next month either the first Saturday or the second Saturday. Again, we will put this on a scale. Director Paddy, you're of that department, you might contribute. We put on a scale. Should we do on the 3rd or the 10th? Those 2 dates are the ones we're looking at. But we didn't want to drag it too far because we are looking to include, leading up to Christmas, an opportunity for Ambazonians to think of the refugees. And while they are doing the federal draft, they can drop a penny or two, a pound or two, or $1 or 3 or 10 for the refugees. We could put all that together and have 2-3 weeks to put their package together and disperse to them to get to them before Christmas. So these are some of the permutations that we, the options that we have to play with and make sure that we don't give our critics an opportunity to say, oh, they've just done a federal draft and we haven't heard anything about refugees. Oh, they've just done a draft and there is no fighting on the home front. Oh, they've just done, they always have something to say about Sako and his government. So we are aware of that, but we're doing the best that we can for the Ambazonians. Thank you. And, if you have any suggestions, please, or questions, let us put our heads together. I've got Comrade Zama here, barristers are there. You are there, Comrade Paddy. You are a strategist. You can always come in and help us. So thank you.
Yeah,
and I'm happy to take any questions.
We have less than 10 minutes to end this program. I know it's so sweet, and we'll still continue the discussion tomorrow when the Secretary of State for Communication comes up. In a few minutes, Undaunted is going to be coming. But I'm getting to you now, Comrade Zama. When you look at and listen to Nijo speak, you actually see the full function of government, a government that chooses to take leadership proactively, is not just concerned about the problems, but looking for solutions that work. This is a government that has proven time and time again that they know what to do and they know how to do it. And you can see every actor involved is in the drawing board doing something. The defense, as I speak, that you're part of for strategy is already, in fact, you people already know what to do. Now we know the problem. We desire a solution. And the defense is telling us that they have a solution. When you look in retrospect, what do you think we did before that if we are called to do again, we would have? To add to that question, Nelson Ochiba and some activists and even myself, we believe that the interim government can take from 2018 strategy, show some leadership, parent the home front, and get contract basis while they are reconstituting and arming and enhancing a federal plan. Talk to us succinctly but intensely in this regard, please.
Thank you, Nijo. I don't think a department can exist without Nijo's department. You are very vital for this struggle. Its money is the mainstay of any war, and our community has not really been as active as it should be. I think we still have to do a lot of mobilization and education when it comes to this war. And we are doing the best that we can do with all the convoluted information that's been sent and cacophony that's been sent by all the other people like Cristiano and his group. In the Defense Department, we are doing a lot of things, seeing how Cameroon government is displaying its acts of bribery, is getting into some of our leaders, is getting into some of our communities, the elites in the various regions, in the various zones, and they are trying to influence our people. But I want to tell our people that we have three kinds of personalities in a war situation, especially in a war of independence. They are fighters, they are collaborators, and there are those that are dead or will die. The fact is we are having a lot of people who are either willingly or unwillingly collaborating with the army, within the La Republic army, to keep us where we are. People like in Bangam, where they actually capture our soldiers and hand them to La Republic. Those are really heinous and treasonous crimes that could be prosecuted. Those things we there's a whole lot of history when it comes to collaborators with the enemy. We could see what the people were in Afghanistan were doing. They were hanging on planes that were lifting up because they knew exactly what was expected to happen to them. And our people have made up their minds that, well, they'll prefer to die than to see an independent Ambazonia. We have to make sure that those people who are willing to sacrifice themselves for the other party get what they deserve. We have to be able to, and we are trying on the grounds to re-educate our soldiers because there's a lot of confluence of information coming in from different areas and different people, and it's easier to convince somebody with $100 and tell them, I'm coming back tomorrow, and you get trapped. We have funded a lot of these groups back home in the home front, and we want them to understand that the IG under Dr. Sako is the only mainstay for this fight. There's no other organization in this fight that's raising funds, that is doing the amount of things that we do with all the funding that we have, from refugees to prisoners to healthcare to our prisoners and healthcare to our soldiers, funeral for our fallen heroes and their families. The amount of work that the Department of Human Sciences under Dr. Tita has been doing in Nigeria, the outreach that my patient has been doing, all these groups, we are spending a lot to keep home front active as it is. Regarding our forces, we are going back and putting back all what we've learned over the 6 years, letting them understand that no matter how barbaric that the soldiers of Cameroon can be, we cannot emulate them. We cannot copy what they are doing. We have to follow all the transitions and all the education that we've given to them regarding rules of combat and what to attack, what is a legitimate target to take down or what not to take down. We cannot go into private properties and civilian activities. But legitimate military targets, we are asking our patients, our people to take all those things down, especially government facilities that are in our area. We are still seeing a lot of this, some of them standing in the rural communities. But as we understand, we've literally driven La Republique out of the rural areas, and they are concentrated in Bamenda Station or in Boya or in Victoria. Those areas will continuously get heavily attacked as the days go ahead and go on, and we gather all the logistics available to do those things. We are asking our people to be steadfast. We are asking them to continue the support for the restoration forces and continue to support their LGAs and their counties, because this fight doesn't go to sleep when people go to sleep. The fight rages on, and La Republique is doing everything it can. Like a surgeon or an oncologist who wants to kill a cancer, it goes inside the cancer. La Republique is using our own people who know what we are, where we sleep, what we do, to attack us and get rid of our fighters. I want our people to make sure that they do understand that. For those fighters that are on the ground trying to think that, well, they want to follow this person or that person, remember, you'll be let go. And at the end of the day, you'll be the person to suffer, because your life is never going to be better with these people. At least we are making a headway. The IG is doing everything it can do in its power to keep this fight more than the 2 weeks that La Republique said it was going to do it. We are making them run for their money, and they are losing a lot of manpower. They are losing a lot of equipment. And this fight is far, far, far from over, like they thought. Thanks to Nijo and all the other people who are putting their foot on the pedal, we are all the way to Boya. We are one way ahead, and there's no turning back. For those people who want to think that they can go to Yaoundé and get a check and think that they can sell our people over, it's an impossibility, because this idea is already embedded in it. There are many kids who are delivered in the bushes. They'll be asking themselves, why are we in the bushes? And a revolution is just that. It will end, and it will end with an Ambazonia that's liberated. And I want everybody to understand that.
That's amazing. When I listen to you speak, I think you should double function, maybe as a spokesperson for the Ambazonian Restoration Forces, and also for special operations. It's encouraging sometimes that you need to give words that will edify the people, both in the home front and as well as the stakeholders who are making sure that they put their hard-earned resources to prosecute the war. But this is an aspect which I think you have just about 90 seconds or maybe 2 minutes to react to. I'm still with you, Sylvester Zame, on this. It has to do, in retrospect, if you would have to act again, what are some of those decisions, those policies and strategies that you would do better? I am trying to twist the question so that you do not unveil the federal government strategic plan, which the government is collectively mobilizing to ensure that is established, most probably before the end of the year or starting early next year. But if you would have to do better, some have suggested, like myself, like activists like Nelson Ochiba, that we as a government need to show some level of leadership at the home front. No matter who you are, some of those at the home front, when President Sako came in, he took responsibility and showed some leadership and won the trust of many of them. And that's where we are today. It has worked. It's a strategy that has worked. While we are still trying to reconstitute some of the counties and LGAs that have been defaulted or destroyed by coup plotters, we cannot cry over spilled milk. Do you think we can revise some of these strategies as a way forward in this federal plan that is in motion?
I think we can do better. Every day that this war lasts, we learn a lot. We learn a lot in terms of our techniques. We learn a lot in terms of the enemy's maneuvers. We learn a lot in terms of our people's resilience. If we go back to 2018, coming to 2022, in 2018 and 2019, a lot of police soldiers were getting a lot of hits. And these things was because we had a lot of the LGAs were active. And we made it an active idea that, okay, every single day there should be somebody who is taken down. An enemy has to be taken down in every county. And they were losing a little bit over 1,200 soldiers every month. But with the confusion that came in, and I still say the confusion, because at the peak of all this, Cristiano came in with an election that he wanted to have against Dr. Sako. It was another thing that really put a wrench. It slowed down our activities for about a month or two. But our people and the soldiers who are fighting this war know exactly what they are fighting for, because we in the diaspora did not initiate this war. They did. They invited us to help them. And we are doing the best that we can do to help them to get what they wanted to. We all went through the system where we were neglected, we were abandoned, we were insulted, we were abused. We have to go above that. And all our soldiers who are on the field are basically fighting for that. I want to tell people that our soldiers are going to eventually come out of the bushes. And Bamenda is not going to be as a haven as it is. Bamenda will get hellfire like every person is getting it eventually. But as it is, we have to do what we have to do from the periphery and come inside. And we are coming. And we have to let a lot of public understand that we are coming. It doesn't matter who is the dead president or living president of La Republic. We are coming, and we will take out all what we have to take out. And I want them to understand that it is not a war that will be won by them. They have to beat us, and I'm sure they haven't done that within 2 weeks that they promised. They're not going to do it in the next 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 years. We are for this. We are in here for a victory. We will have an independence, and it will be an independence that it doesn't matter whether they accept it or not. It will happen.
We will actualize our independence. We will gain our territorial sovereignty and national integrity. This is a resume of the words coming in from Comrade Sylvester Zama tonight. It has been a wonderful discussion, gentlemen, and we can continue forever, but then I think we've come to our end. Let's give the floor for Undaunted ABC Amber News to carry the day. But before that, I want to give you a hint on some of the great things that are happening and ask you, gentlemen, you have 30 seconds each to make a last statement so that we can close. Let me start with you, Barrister Team.
Yes, let me end up this debate with something we want to carry home. We have spent a lot of time talking about Professor Anyangwe, about Munzu. It is not about them. It is about a generation, that generation to which they belong. That includes me.
Yeah.
And what do we take home from here? We don't hate, I personally don't hate Professor Anyangwe. I know him. I don't hate Munzu. He knows me. But what is the take home from it? We're elders. And elders are supposed to have wisdom. So what role do we play and what do we do it? The first thing you do with the wisdom of an elder is to tell the truth as it is. Because there's nothing you are going to, nobody will beat you. If they insult you, they will blame them for insulting Papa, for insulting Grandma.
Yeah.
So tell the truth as it is. We are, as elders, if we didn't know this, as people of that generation, we should not be vying for positions. Now, our role is to advise who the position holder, who are they. It depends on our wisdom, on our advice, and then they'll get something. As elders of any category, we should learn to take opportunities when they arise, even when they look blurred. When the younger people cannot see it, we with our own eyes, with our own ears, we can say there's something there in the offing for us. And I gave this example. We refuse to see the importance of the Swiss-led initiative. Apparently, because we do not like the person who initiated it, the elders made a mistake. The elders would have advised all of us to jump on board, improve on it. We missed a golden opportunity. That should not happen next time. Again, as elders, when the house is burning, the elders speak and listen to. We, the elders, who failed the people, who had this distraction for 2 years, interpreting a constitution which our elders drew. They did not step in to say, look, you are wrong. We live in the United States. Misinterpreting the constitution or arguing, it did not start with us. It has been there ever. In the United States, it happens. When it happens, what do? They refer to the notes. What did these people intend to do by this article? They refer to the elders, and then they come to a conclusion. So elders, like we all belong to, she learned to do that. She learned to give advice when we need. We should not stand on the fence. And I gave an example. Don't just say, no, they should not kill fighters. No. We should have said, Mr. Cho Ayaba, because you have recorded it and put publicized, stop killing people. That would have had some meaning. But when you come and say, well, they should stop killing people, like in my place, you say the witchcraft or the palace woman. You come and say some palace woman, the chop chief wish. There are about 100 women in the palace. They will walk away because they've not called her name. That's not how it works. So that is a lesson we have learned from this discussion. Nobody should go out and say they were insulting Professor Anyangwe, they were insulting Munzu. No. Yeah, we mentioned their names, but it is to the generation that is. And we of that generation, again, we must agree that leadership are beyond that point. It's no longer for us. The new generation is not us. That new generation does not include me. It's my children. So we should not vie for positions. We should tell them as it is. They may not take it, but down the road they will look, Pa told us the story. Pa assured us. If we had seized this opportunity with the Swiss-led negotiation, we even created, SACO even created what they call act. People refused to fall back there to see what we could do. Elders kept quiet because nobody wanted to hear him being called Excellency, call him Mr. President. What does that mean? Those are semantics. Those are semantics. They don't help us anything. So thank you, Mr. Paddy. That's the lesson we should take home discussion.
Paddy, your audio.
Thank you.
I
I'm
was
doing a lot of work.
I was
I
saying
try
thank
to
you for
make sure that I'm not
giving me the
interfering.
time. I was
Yeah,
saying thank you
but
for giving me the time. That's the lesson we should take back home from this
yes,
discussion of today. Thank you.
I wish I could give
Can
you
I
more
can I
time, but I would like
close?
any other person. Yes, I
I need
wish
to
I
go.
could give
Can
you
I
any
close?
more time. Yes, I wish I could give you more time, but I'd like every other person that's speaking to reduce their time by at least divide it by 4 from what Barrister Tim has already done to make your closing remark.
I'm
Barrister,
done.
go please.
Well, I like to. As a Christian, I don't hate any human being, but I hate people's actions. There are people who have retarded us on this revolution, on this struggle, and those are people. I hate their actions, and I will live to hate their actions. If anybody wants, he can go and tell Anyangwe and Munzo that I hate them. Because I was in Boya and Bamenda, 1993, 1994. And when we read the proclamation in Bamenda, Munzo, who read it, started crying. And he was the first to sell out. You think I think I like his actions? No, I hate his actions.
You hate the
I wouldn't
actions.
hate him as
Thank
a
you very
human being,
much.
but I hate his
Thank
actions.
you.
And Chris Anu should know that I hate his actions. I hate everything that he represents. And all the rest of the coup plotters and the blacklegs should know that Barrister Fru hates them. Thank you. Thank you,
Hates
Paddy,
the
for
action.
inviting me.
That's a very categoric one. Nijo, please. There is no laughter about that.
No, thank you. The thing is, Comrade Paddy, I know you're itching for time, so I'm going to spare you. I'm going to just ask
Please.
the elders just one question, and then they can send me the answers differently. I've been very privileged to share this platform with them tonight. But my concern, or one of the tasks that I'm working on, is how to get our diaspora community more involved with this revolution. We haven't exploited the potential of our cultural groups, as our cultural associations, as Comrade Zaman mentioned earlier. But how can we initiate this? What can we do? We need them because the resources are dwindling. But action is required on home ground. Now, action and resources have to match each other. If there are no resources, there'll be no action. And I bet you this revolution has captured more sympathizers now than it was 5 years back. But the trouble is, or the weak point we need is, as a government, we need strategies to get everybody involved. And I think if we can penetrate our cultural associations, our Njangi groups in the diaspora first, because we know what is happening on home front, we stand a very good chance. So I would really like people to send us suggestions, either by text or through ABC. And I can see Barrister is itchy to say something. But Barrister, I think Director Paddy is draining the time. So that's
Nijo, we cannot undermine the power that is involved with numbers, and that we're expecting your department to also give a framework or template that can help individuals, groups of individuals, correct, and Ambazonians as a whole to work on. Sylvester Zama, please.
Thank you again, Comrade Paddy. I just want to go back and emphasize on the fact that our soldiers back on the home front have to comport themselves like soldiers. I want them to understand that they are protectors of our citizens. They are valiant soldiers who are defenders of our liberty and our independence. I would like them to understand that they cannot put a gun or a bullet on any of our citizens. We have to go through a rule of law and the rules of engagement. Even though there are some people in the diaspora who are encouraging them to go after fighters who are not under them, please, I'm telling them to stay away from those evil machinations, because those things at the end of the day, it comes back to them, because at the end of the day, there's going to be a reconciliation. A reconciliation, it goes with recrimination too. So if you are doing anything against our people, the time will come when you'll be judged regarding those too. So I want to thanks to all the parents, all the mothers who are holding the homes down, because our young men and women are out in the bushes fighting for their independence. I really want to thank all the mothers of Ambazonia. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sylvester. Thank you, gentlemen, for this wonderful outing. Thank you all. I got in touch with all of you at 5 a.m. this morning, and you all answered present. Ambazonians are proud of you, and we need patriots and warriors like you. You are warriors in the diaspora that are writing their names in history to see that we as a people will free. For some of you, you've seen this video that we're just highlighting there. Undaunted will give us details, what is happening, what has happened. These are snippets of the new ground game. And we're glad that Mezam is queuing in the energy. We hope that before the year runs through, like Sylvester Zama promised us, the urban cities will get hellish. That's what Amazonia wants now. Is it that we want to destroy our own? But even the Bible says there's a time you will have to destroy so that you can build again. That we are destroying the Franco-Cameroon hegemony that has been planted in our national territory unapologetically, because we want to build a new Amazonia, a nation that will be the cradle of Africa, like our anthem says it. This is going to be a nation like no other nation. Undaunted this evening is not one of those news broadcasts that you want to miss for anything. Stay tuned, and on top of the hour, we'll be having the news for tonight. There's a lot for us to share on it, and I think that every Amazonian should be a part of it. See you then.
All right, may we share the grace.
May the grace of our Lord be with you in all that you do.
Rocktown in the building.
Rocktown in the building. Rich boy on the beach. Ay, 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 ay. Thunder. Ha. Hey, boo, babe. May the grace
of our Lord be with you in all that you do.
turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
With all that's fair,
Na, 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 na.
even will not be vain.
His mighty hands is upon you, and there is nothing.
There's nothing that you cannot achieve.
Amen, amen, no. Amen, no. Amen, amen, no. Amen, no. Amen, amen. Listen, listen. Let I go follow you. Let I go follow you. All about it. Let I go follow you. Let your banner. Let I go follow you. Let I go follow you. If you believe, let I go follow you. Let I go follow you. Na 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 na. Yeah 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 yeah. Amen, amen. Carigo, carigo, carigo. I no better cut it. Money kill a fat. Me no go down grade. Up, you go. Fly so high like an eagle. Jehovah controller. Amen, amen, amen. You will go so high and everything gonna work for you. Amen, amen, amen. Amen, amen, amen. Oh, yeah. You shall not die but live long life. I pray for you. Amen, amen, amen. Amen, amen, amen. Oh, yeah. You go to try, you go to feel, you go to go, you go to come. Now the grace of God, they carry you go. Hey, the grace of be with you in all that you do. You are successful. Your labor will not be in vain. His mighty hand. And there is nothing. Amen, amen, no. Amen, no. Amen, amen, no. carry go. You no better kete. Money kill a fe. Me no go downgrade. Up, you dey go. Fly so high